And that's a big part of my job, is having conversations with people. And I remember at that age thinking, okay, I want to get past the small talk. I get to be with this person for, an hour or what have you. And I want to talk about something interesting. I want to learn from them.
Hello, and welcome again to the Pathways podcast, where we explore different careers in the Quebec City region. I'm your host, Susanna Tang, from Voice of English-Speaking Quebec. Today, I'll be speaking with Olivia Eadie about her career as a hairstylist. Olivia has been in the industry for almost 15 years, working at various hair salons in Australia and Quebec City. Recently, she has taken the bold step to start her own business, where she brings her hair services on site to you. How did you know that you wanted to be a hairstylist?
That's an interesting question, because I was really young when I started. Our hairdresser, my mum's friend, came to our house and did our hair, and she was going to hair school. And she told my mum that she thought I would do really great at this hair school and that I would really like it. I didn't have any extracurricular activities. I'd retired as a gymnast. So my mum and I went to this school and checked it out, and I signed up, and I was doing that at the same time as going to high school. So I was going to hair school 2 nights a week and on Saturdays. And I just fell in love with it. I loved traveling to hair school on the train and going into the city. And my hair school was very multicultural, and I had been going to a private high school that was just very, very white, very much the same sort of people. So I just loved it. And then probably 6 months in, I told my mum that I wanted to be a hairdresser, and probably 6 months after that, I got a job in the city, full time in a hair salon, and I was a hairdresser.
Okay, but why hair? I pushed Olivia a bit more to explain what she loves about hairdressing.
I've always been creative. I would identify myself as an artist. I like painting. I like even baking and all sorts of things artistic. And I find my inspiration from my clients. Sometimes my clients are really funky. I'm like, wow, I had this fantastic client one day, and he walked in, I think it was a Friday in the morning, and he was telling my boss how he had a dream that he shaved the sides of his head and he colored his mohawk orange, and he wanted to do that day. And so my boss pulled me over, and she knew that I would be up for the project, and that's what we did. I think that's another interesting part of my job, is embracing my clients' style and what they think looks great, and just agreeing with them, whatever it is, even if it's not my style, but being able to adapt to whatever someone wants, and their idea of beauty, and I don't know what makes them feel good. What is it about hair? It's a great medium. It's a creative outlet for me. Yeah. And something that I found really interesting is the people I got to meet that I would never have another opportunity to meet, like people who were working for the government, or just even people that were just getting married or starting a family. And I got to have conversations with them, and I've always loved getting to know lots of different types of people.
I think that's a really good point. It's such a social job. You really do need to talk. So is that something you just innately have? Is it something you develop? What would you say?
I think it's something that I've developed. Yeah, to be able to be a good conversationalist, and to read my client and what's appropriate. And I've definitely got it wrong sometimes. And I feel like my job is to make my client feel comfortable, to read them, to know if they want to talk or if they just want to relax, or, just to get to know them, especially at my job when I was working in the hotel. Most of my clients I was meeting for the first time, and it would be a one-off service for them because they were traveling. So I had to really quickly work out how I was going to make them feel comfortable, and also gain their trust as well, because it's quite a big thing for us to let someone that you don't know cut your hair or color your hair, or even style your hair for a big event or a wedding, for example. So that is part of my job, definitely, and something that I'm always working on.
That's also a really good point, that you kind of have to build a rapport, even a
Mhm.
relationship, I would say.
Yeah, yep. And it's really special, building relationships with clients. And even when I get to I have my young clients and I get to watch them grow up, that's fun. I love that part of my job.
Another important relationship that Olivia talked about was the bonds she forged with her managers. As with many jobs, mentors are really essential for your professional development and growth. Here, Olivia talks about an important lesson she learned from one of her mentors.
The gift that my boss at the time gave me was, I remember the first week that I was working there was this woman who came in, and she almost came in a huff, and she said that she's never had a good haircut in her life. So I started cutting her hair. And at the end, while I'm blow drying her hair, she started to get really fussy, and she's pulling at her hair and she's looking in the mirror, and she was just finding faults in the haircut. I was starting to get a bit flustered. I was trying to work out what I could do for this woman, and she was starting to get mean. And my boss came over and said, "What's the problem over here?" and sort of took over for me. And she fixed the problem for what the woman was saying. And then when she went to pay, she said that the woman was not welcome back, and that that she'd brought this bad haircut on herself. And the woman left, and of course I went out the back. I cried, and my boss just came over and hugged me, and she said, "Look, we're just going to light a candle and we're going to change the energy in here." This is my boss, who's really a hippie. And what she gave me is the gift of allowing me to fail, that's okay, that it's okay for someone to not be happy one time. And she also told me, she said, the customer is not always right. Okay. What's important is that you feel safe and confident, and you're feeling able to create. Because I think creativity comes from freedom. Like if you're being too controlled or pushed to perform, I think it just kills creativity. So in that salon, I was really able to let loose, and I had a full clientele, and I really enjoyed that experience.
As we talked, it was really clear how much Olivia enjoyed her salon experiences, learning from other hairstylists, making friends, and working with a variety of clients. In fact, she never had business ambitions until one day.
So the salon that I worked in at the hotel, my boss was Anglophone, and she was going to be moving. And we started talking about how I might be able to take over that hair salon. So this was just life-changing for me. I'd never thought about being a business owner. So I realized that I really needed to prepare for this. So I started seeing a business coach and doing a lot of personal development and working out how I could do that, and doing, business plans, and just trying to teach myself how I was going to do this. And it was a long process. And then in the end, it didn't work out. Things didn't line up. And it was really hard for me to finally make the decision to say, okay, I have to let this go. It's over now. And it did feel like failure. But I look back at it now, and I'm so thankful that it didn't work out, because I wasn't ready for it. And it started a little fire inside of me that made me realize that I do have an entrepreneur inside of me, and that is the goal one day, to work for myself, that I'm able to do that. But it just wasn't the right time.
Olivia wanted to include that story to illustrate how setbacks often prepare us for success. It's now a couple of years later, and Olivia has started her own business.
Now I do work for myself. It's been a long process to get here. At the start of the year, while I was still working in a hair salon, I launched a website to advertise my wedding hairdressing skills, to find some wedding hair clients. And it was a big deal to just launch this website. I was trying to do the website myself on Squarespace, and the learning curve was so steep that I just would give up. I was just no good at it at all. Trying to design a website, I had no idea what I was doing. So eventually I found this girl who used to be my yoga instructor, who's a graphic designer and an artist. And her, she would help me with my website, and she did a fantastic job. And I'm so glad that I got her to do that. And it was actually a great success. I booked 8 contracts this summer. And so then when I had time to think, and I thought, you know what, I could do this for myself. And it was it was so much easier to make the jump after I'd already made other jumps. And it's funny how all the experiences I've had have prepared me for working for myself, and it's not that hard. And I've also learned, I think, to detach my self-worth to my job. I mean, I realize now that they're completely separate.
Do you think you can put that in words a bit more? What do you mean separating yourself from your job?
So launching my website, putting myself out there, putting my face on something, I had so much anxiety around it. And I think I was waiting for someone to give me permission to do it. And I realized that I don't need anyone's permission, that there's not a good timing. There's not like I'd be obsessed with making decisions, like the simplest decisions. And I've learned now that I think you just have to make decisions, any decision, and just take action and do it and learn as you go. And I've also learned that there's no such thing as failure. There's just learning.
I think that bears repeating. There's no such thing as failure. There's just learning. Next, I wanted to see about the opportunities to work in English as a hairstylist in Quebec City.
Yes, Quebec City definitely has a need for English-speaking hairdressers, especially bilingual hairdressers. I think that there is a gap in the market, actually, for bilingual hairdressers.
Final question. What advice do you have for our high school students?
So one of my mentors is a salon owner in Melbourne. He's Greek. And when I was 15, I would go to his hair salon at lunchtime, and I'd beg him for a job. I'd say, Marius, can I just work here? Can I just work for you? And he'd say, no, darling, go and become an interesting person. Go travel the world. Go create some stories you can tell your clients, and then come back, and then you can work for me. And I know that sounds really harsh, but it was really good advice. Like, go and have experiences. Go and become an interesting person. And I've learned so much from older people in my life. I mean, my own grandparents, my grandparents' friends, my parents' friends, just families that I've known. Go spend time with those people, and make sure you have people in your life that you admire, that are further along than you are. That's my advice.
And that's all for this episode. Thank you again to our guest, Olivia Eadie, for sharing her perspectives. We would also like to acknowledge the Government of Canada for funding this initiative. Join us next time for our talk with Jared Smith about his work as a fitness trainer and entrepreneur. This is the Pathways Podcast. Signing off, until next time.